happened anyway. But he died 2 weeks after the premiere of Devil's Rejects. And
when you're talking tragic stories, you know, I mean, the guy had a horrible life because he was giantitis and all that business, and he had rheumatoid arthritis, and everybody just kind of looked at him like he was weird and this, that, and the other thing. And this young girl that came to a couple of conventions just really fell in love with him.
yeah.
And moved in with him. They were really genuinely in love. And engaged. And engaged. And she went to work one morning and came home and he was dead. And
she knew when I first met him, we went to Rob's house for a cookout, which was very funny seeing him flipping the burgers. Remember that the night before we started shooting Devil's Rejects?
yeah.
I was walking across to go to the game room with this big backyard and everybody was there, and Rob came up to me and he said, "There's somebody I want you to meet." He said, "He's your son, Tiny." And he said, "Please get to know him quickly. I don't think he's going to be around too long." So Rob, and you know that, you don't know what you're getting into when someone tells you something like that. So he took me over to Matthew, and Matthew's gigantic hand just completely consumed my hand. And I thought, okay, took a few breaths and sat down next to him and had a charming conversation and just fell madly in love with him. And when we go on the set, he'd be going, "Mama!" because we had trailers out on this ranch at Sable Ranch. And I could hear him bellowing, "Mama," and I knew, oops, my time. Matthew's arrived on the set. I gotta go talk to Matthew. So Rob was right, I got to know him, and Matthew was an attorney. He was only 32 years old. He looked like he was in his 50s because of the giant syndrome. He had an enormous number of very, very devoted friends. And the people who showed up at his memorial service, which was an extraordinary event, lots of little people and people with deformities and whatnot, but an enormous amount of just you and me and everybody else. And the people who got up, I hadn't known him long enough, as long as many of the people there. So I just sat and listened to all of these amazing stories about how smart he was and how he was top of his class in college, got his law degree, and how much everybody loved him. And I thought, I love him that much, but I did not get to know him. Just we had a short time to get to know each other. So that was kind of extraordinary, that Rob created that character and found Matthew to fulfill Tiny, and basically changed our lives, and I'm sure people who've seen the movies
Oh yeah.
changed theirs. It's like, we all know who he is.
If you go to my website, I have a tribute to him on my website.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's on the left-hand column of the menu.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to put together the best stuff I could, get it on there, because he was a great guy.
What's your website?
I keep shit so simple.
That's it.
SidHaig.com. Not even I can forget that.
Is there a space between the Sid and the Haig?
There's some W's in there, I don't
XXX.
know. What was it?
XXX.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
That's
the other
for
website.
sure.
Thank you for coming to Scares of Care. I love Devil's Rejects. I'm a lifelong horror fan. I'm used to great horror films being rejected by sort of the mainstream. What is it about Devil's Rejects that got it acclaim? Never been able to figure that out.
They got it what?
That seemed to get acclaim, that seemed to get recognition outside
More
of...
general.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
it's
it
not
wasn't-
just
it
that it's
wasn't,
excellent films, there's a lot of excellent films that they don't recognize as a genre.
Finally, at one point, Rob really kind of copped to it that it really isn't a horror film, it's a modern day Western, okay? Anybody ever see The Wild Bunch? It's The Wild Bunch, okay?
It's just twisted.
It's just kind of really warped, yeah.
There was a review. There were some major reviewers, and oh gosh, Roger Ebert,
Roger Ebert,
loved it.
yeah.
And I don't know whether his review or somebody else's said it's a cross between Sergio Leone, it had the spaghetti western kind of scope, and Sam Peckinpah, Wild
Yeah.
Bunch, and all that. and John Waters. So
That's where the triple X comes in.
this was major newspaper, right? I read that and I thought, how could someone have been so spot on? And I didn't even notice it. But it did have elements of all that. So I think it kind of joined fans of, crossover. It became kind of a crossover.
Yeah.
And it scored.
Sure. How can you start with Leonard Skinner and I mean with the Altman brothers and with Leonard Skinner and not have a good movie?
One of the
And
things
you'll
I
never listen to that song the same way again. Huh? Yeah.
Well, one of the things that Rob said on it, you probably were together when he said this, probably in somewhere, but that Lionsgate kept saying, no, you can't use the whole 8 minutes of Freebird. You can't do it. You got to cut down, cut. And Rob said, no. I have to use it, but you don't have the film. We don't finish it. Nothing's going to happen. He fought to get the whole long segment. And what you needed it for was to work up your sympathy for the baddest asses in the world. But you needed, because the most horrible thing in the world, is seeing everybody killed at the end. They deserved it.
Excuse me?
I mean, we all the characters were reprehensible. But he did that wonderful thing about making you love, or finding the belly of, the good part of, the bad. So it's many tricks.
There's one thing that I gotta say about that whole, 30 Days in Hell and the temperature every day and all of that business. I have an appreciation for women who wax. Because every time I took my shirt off with all the dry blood and everything, my chest hairs came with it. I used to be a hairy bastard, no more. It's all gone.
Thanks to Rob, or just nature?
Nature and Rob.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions?
That guy's trying to turn on his microphone.
Okay.
This question is for all three of you.
Stand up and just
Just out of curiosity, why do you think Rob Zombie didn't make a third movie revolving around the Firefly family? I mean, assuming you all didn't die at the end.
Because we mutually agreed that none of us wanted to be in Devil's Rejects 9.
Having done Police Academy 7, I'm telling you, because Police Academy started as an R, the first one was R, and it was very funny, best script I ever read, until I read Devil's Rejects. That's kind of over-the-top stuff is my sort of, I like it. But then after the first one, they decided that in order to pick up a bigger audience, they should go PG and make it for 13 and over. And they got sillier and stupider and sillier and stupider and bad. Until number 7, when we were during the coup in Moscow trying to shoot a movie, which is the silliest thing any American film company ever did. As bad as they got, I loved them. And not to watch, but I love working on them. And I think that you were silly. You should have said, Rob, we're not doing this second movie unless we get 7. Because
I think we just ended it because everybody, I've never been to a convention where somebody hasn't come up and said, are you doing another one? No, we're fucking dead.
I was with Sherry, I think I was with Sherry or somebody, and I went up to Rob, and we were joking, and I said, hey, I got it for the sequel, and he goes, yeah? And I said, zombies. And he went, a zombie movie. I said, we could have really, as a Firefly family, become quite interesting zombies. Because of our tendencies.
And people have come up with sequels and I say, good, try to make this look younger.
Hey, no, you have to understand, sequels go in order unless you do flashbacks. So you're supposed to look a little older in each sequel, aren't you?
No, I should have said flashback. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, flashback,
Yeah, but that's just a little bit of time. Would they put the tape behind it?
Yeah,
All your
a
face
week.
back? But if you do it just for short times, if you did it for a whole movie, it'd just be painful. But just, a flashback. They can shoot half of you and then accidentally shoot on the wrong side. Oh my gosh. My goodness. Just, the wonderful thing for me, I guess, that the most, as much as I liked working on it, as much as I love Rob, as much as I love you guys, and this is what's being able to do all of these conventions and meeting everybody that's here. It is such a treat. And sometimes we get such a short time together, and sometimes there are lines and you don't get to talk with each person as long as you would like. But it's just, this is a blessing. And life has blessings, but this is a big one. For me, it has been for the last few years. I so look forward to it. And I so hate collecting the money, but I do it. You were the one, or was it Bill Mosley? When we first started, I said, I will not charge for autographs. This is really nice. I get to meet people who've seen something I've done. We get to have an exchange. My work will get better. This is like taking a class, doing an autograph thing. And they said, no, you have to choose because you charge because everybody else does. So if you don't charge, you can't come.
And plus the fact, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
However, I will never charge $800 for a fucking picture.
Leslie, was Rob kind of poking fun at your Police Academy days when he recast you in the Halloween remake?
Pardon me? Oh,
He made you a security guard?
I'm not sure. He didn't really say. He just said something about, it said it's really familiar to see him in a uniform. I think what more than that is that I used to, I don't do it anymore, but I used to be a prolific trap and skeet shooter and competitive. I had won a California title for a while and all this sort of thing, and he knew that was in my past, and we talked about shooting, Rob and I. So I think he wanted, I had the rifle and I was actually a shotgun, I think, and the guy, and Michael Myers pushed it up to the guy. That was Tyler Maine.
Yeah,
The guy, yeah. So I think that was more of it. I don't think it was really the Police Academy tie-in. I think he just wanted to see me with the gun in my hand. Yeah. As Mother Firefly, that would have been a big mistake.
Hey, Sid, in that scene with Ginger, was that your actual skid marks, or was it
Let me tell you about those skid marks. Rob wanted skid marks on the tidy whities, okay? So the wardrobe guy comes in with the little rag that's got the coloring and the oil and stuff on it, and he gives it this little thing, and Rob goes, no, I don't think so, we need a little bit more, okay? So he gives it a little bit more, and no, we need a little bit more. And so he gives it a little bit more, and Rob goes, Jesus Christ, will you please get it right? I said, give me that fucking rag. Perfect, let's shoot this. It's called going for it.
Oh my God.
You want skid marks? I'll give you skid marks.
And it made the scene so much sexier for me.
And what happened? I'm lying on the skid marks, okay? What the hell was that about?
the dirtiness in the movie made it more real? And
You know, one of the funniest things about that whole transition from our scene to then I wake up with the lady, okay, and I got to take a piss, okay? That transition for me, disappearing into the bathroom to the cup of coffee being poured was absolute genius. I mean, it sounded real. Yeah.
Ginger, I've got a question for you. I was wondering, how did you get cast for Devil's Rejects? Did you know Rob Zombie already, or?
No, I did not know Rob, and I've been really, really fortunate in my career. You know, I started in the adult film industry, and it's very, very difficult to make the transition from adult to mainstream, and I've been working on it. I made my last adult film in February 11th, 1986, and I studied with Milton Casellas at the Beverly Hills Playhouse for about 5 years. And my agent called up and said, you know, Rob Zombie is interested in you for this film. And my heart dropped, and there was part of me, there's always a part of me that thinks that I'm not going to be accepted in the mainstream world because of my past. And so I went in, not that I didn't care, but I went, you know what, I'm not going to go in with my insecurities, I'm not going to go in thinking I'm not good enough, I'm not going to go in thinking that they have preconceived notions about me. I'm going to go in, I'm going to nail it, I'm going to do it. And I walked in, and rather than being insecure, walked in, did the audition, and they called the next day and said that I had the role. And I've been lucky enough, Rob's cast me in 3 of his films now. So it's pretty exciting.
Is there a special off-scene moment during the Devil's Rejects where you guys had a memorable time? Something special. You were talking about grilling the day before, so I was thinking about, was there something that happened actually on set?
On set, but not while we're filming.
Yes.
Because, you know, my conversation with Sherry about changing the scene.
I got nothing.
Well,
I think we all worked so hard that the days were long and you were always busy. If you weren't shooting, you were getting ready to shoot, you were meeting with Rob, you were getting, you know, there was a lot going on. So, and it was such a short amount of time to film that I personally, I didn't have any time to goof off. You know, I was just working the whole time.
Yeah, it was a pretty intense schedule. I mean, in reality, that film should have taken like a month and a half to shoot.
Right.
Okay, so we were cranking it the whole time.
My off-camera time talking to Matthew McRory was worth the world. I mean, that was just wonderful to have it. We had it out at the ranch because you couldn't go get in your car and go off to the drugstore or do an errand or something. You were pretty much stuck at the ranch. So that was off-stage time. It was really great.
Sable Ranch was a huge place.
Massive.
There was 3 films being shot at the same time, ours being one of them, and we never ran into any of the other production companies. That's how big the place was. And the roadkill of the day at the Sable Ranch was rats. There were rats everywhere. In the scene where we all get arrested, we get busted by Wydell and all those guys, I'm standing at the door with Forsyth, waiting to make the entrance, and this rat runs across my foot. And I went, well, that's special. Yeah, it's pretty rustic.
Oh, I was just going to say that I don't know what story I should tell because it actually helped the scene so much. But when we were working in the interrogation scene with William Forsythe and myself, and then the other actors that were there, and it was a lot of tension, a lot of cameras, and you know, the atmosphere was really tense. So we'd start the scene, and we'd get so far, and William would just walk off the set. Just leave the set, right in the middle of the scene, and he would walk up some stairs, and he'd go outside, and Rob would have to eventually go find him and bring him back. And this happened over and over again. So I had all that time with all of us sitting on the set going, you know, and me going, oh, these, you know, handcuffs are hurting, and oh, this and that, and carrying on. But every time he'd come back in, and we'd start over, it's hard to get started, but it would get better every single time. And I've never asked him why he left. Something just disturbed him, or he had a thought.
It didn't work for him. 'Cause
What?
I got that story too.
He did the same thing to you?
Yeah, and I'm going, excuse me, those aren't anywhere close to the lines that are in the script. You're taking this in a different direction. He goes, well, that just didn't work for me. And don't get me wrong, because William and I are like this, okay? But we work a lot alike, organically. And he said, well, that just doesn't work for me. Well, that just doesn't work for me. And I said, excuse me, did you read this fucking script before you took the job? And you should have said then that that didn't work for you, okay? And just shut the fuck up and let's do this scene. And when he had us all tied to the chairs and the nails in the hands and all of that business, okay? All of a sudden he went off script and he started talking about we should start a rock group and go on tour. And I just went, oh no, this can't be happening. So I went, shut your fucking pie hole, you fudge packing motherfucker. In the corner I hear Rock go, God. But William and I laugh about that kind of stuff, and it's just, that's one of those kind of things that happen when people that work the same way are going off in different directions.
Well, it was interesting in a way, when he did it, it was infuriating. He walks off set, and everyone has to, cameras have to turn off, everybody has to, and you have to bring all that back up again once he comes back to set to work. But that irritation that I had, it's an interrogation scene. And, in an interrogation scene, you're fighting for your life, but you're fighting to win. And the angrier I got at him, the better the scene got for me. So by the time we finally got to the culmination, I was ready to completely lose, and I did. I lost it completely, and I thought maybe it was a ploy. He wanted to get more attention in the room. He did not want to have to work it up himself. He wanted to do whatever, or he needed to be in control. He was afraid of losing control. Whatever he did in my situation was different, because he wasn't changing dialogue. But it was heightening the stakes every time he would do that, because the entire crew is pissed off. Rob is pissed off. But he just did it, and it worked for the scene. I'll never work with him again, but it worked.
I'm going to kick him in the ass the next time I see him. You got a question?
Yes, sir. I think one of the reasons that horror gets a bad rap is the lack of character development with the characters and the believability of what's about to happen. And when you're watching a Rob Zombie film, particularly the ones that you've all been in, as over the top as it may be, there's a sense of true believability in what's about to happen. And so my question is, as an actor, the scenes that you've described, in any of what you've described this past hour, how do you truly prepare to act through what is about to happen that makes it look as real as how we see it? I don't know how you could possibly prepare.
I think this is three answers.